What's up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of The Way We See It. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman. This is going to be a fun episode. I'm looking forward to this one. Wesley, how's it going?
It's good. We got to find fun things to talk about during
Yes.
the dead of the season.
I love the topic for today. It's about curses, man. We're talking about curses. I kind of feel like little Allen Iverson, man. We're not talking about football. We're talking about curses, and not just curses from a video game. In case you missed it, Saquon Barkley is going to grace the cover of the upcoming Madden 26 video game. Pretty cool image. It was the image of him jumping backwards over a defender, which did happen last season, obviously. Wesley, when you saw the cover, what was your thoughts? It was fitting to me. When I saw that Saquon was on the cover, I was like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's pretty cool the way they did the jumpwards back thing, the jumping over the guy backwards on the cover, which was just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in any sport. So it's pretty cool for it to be immortalized like that. But no, I mean, he deserves it after the season he just had, and obviously there's more meat left on the bone. He could have had even more yards. So
Yeah,
I like it. He deserves
so
it.
I'm not I'm as a 42-year-old man. I know you're similar age to me. I think you're a little older. I don't play video games anymore.
I
Do
don't.
you? Are you a
I never
gamer of
have.
any kind?
Never. I've played less than an hour of Madden in my life.
Same. Honest to God truth. I played the Nintendo till I couldn't move my thumbs anymore. Like original Nintendo.
Yep, I had one of those.
Played some Sega Genesis, and then that was it. Like I really didn't play games after that. I know a lot of people do. I'm not hating on anybody that's a gamer out there that loves the Madden series, whatever. But there is this talking point that always gets brought up every time the Madden cover is released, and that is the Madden cover jinx. Now, Wesley, first and foremost, I want to get your thoughts on these type of talking points, the jinx. Do you believe that there is a jinx? Do you think that this is real, or are you kind of like, man, this is stupid?
Well, I mean, neither one. I don't believe in it, but I don't think it's stupid either. I think it's a lot of fun to talk about. It's somebody who grew up in sports and was superstitious about my own things. I wore number 13 all through my sports career, and I had everything a routine of the order I got dressed, or a song that I wanted to listen to at a certain time, or stuff like that. So I believed in my own superstitions about myself, but it was more about my mental mindset, not that it greatly affected anybody else or anything like that. But it's fun to talk about.
Well, I want to talk. So, do you have any superstitions still? Like you talked about growing up wearing a certain number. Do you have any superstitions that you still do as an adult?
I don't know if it's superstitions anymore. Just at my age, just everything's a routine, and that's the way.
Yes.
So my superstitions have become a routine, and so whether that's work or the way I work out and kind of stuff like that, like
Yeah.
everything's a routine to me now. So I don't at this age and this many years of doing it, I don't think of it as superstitious anymore. I just do things the same way over and
I
over
get it.
again. So the same things that I was doing 25 years ago, it was a superstition to me. Now it's
Right.
just the way I operate and my mind
We
works.
just
And
we just call it something different. It's just a
yeah,
routine now.
but it's still everything's superstitious. I just don't think of it that way.
I get it. I'm at the point in my life where I'm trying to break what I feel like could be superstitions. So it's like a challenge for me. And there's no sport that I was more superstitious than in golf. And it's the only sport I really still do play to this day. I
Yep.
used to have the same number of practice swings. I used to put the golf ball on the tee a certain way when I'm hitting my driver. I used to make sure. And now it's like, okay, Jeff, you got to release yourself of some of this stuff. Like it's not going to impact your game. And so I've done that the last 2 years of trying to kind of undo some of these mental thoughts. And it's actually worked. Not that I'm playing better, but I'm not playing any worse, which proves that it's not about the superstition. That's all just a mental thing.
Do you still at the halftime of every Steelers game shave your legs, or is that like, have you broken that routine?
I've broken that. Now it's every other game. I shave my legs and my armpits and all the other stuff. But anyways.
Of course, yeah.
All right, let's get back to football now. Let's talk about the Madden curse. I found this article. ESPN did this for me, and I appreciate ESPN and all their hard work and diligence. They went to the last 10 years of the Madden cover. They looked at who was on the cover and what was the result of their upcoming season after being announced as on the cover. So this goes back to Madden 15 when Richard Sherman, the Legion of Boom was still a thing at the time. And he was on the cover. The result was that, according to ESPN, that they put a stellar campaign together. He didn't have any injuries. He got an first team All Pro nod. Hey, there you go. Madden 16, Odell Beckham Jr. So this is coming off of his Offensive Rookie of the Year campaign. Followed that up with another great season. He had 96 catches, 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns. No jinx there. Now we get into some Madden 17 cover talk with Gronk. Gronk was on the cover. He had an injury-plagued season, and although they did win a Super Bowl, he was not his usual self that year. And so a lot of people are like, okay, maybe there's something to this. Maybe not so much. Madden 18, Tom Brady, he had a great season in 2017, 4,500 yards, 32 touchdowns. All right, get back into the jinx talk. Antonio Brown's on the Madden 19 cover. This is before he goes off the literal deep end, and it's his final year in Pittsburgh. And then after that, well, the rest is history, as they say. Madden 20, Patrick Mahomes is there. He was fine, had a strong season. Lamar Jackson's on Madden 21. He has a down year in 2019, or 2019, it earned him first league MVP, but at the same time, he had kind of a mediocre follow-up. Madden 22, Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady are on the cover. They're good. Now, this is when in Madden 24 and Madden 25, especially, they start to like do these dual covers, which makes it weird because it's not an actual physical game. They just download the software. Josh Allen's on in Madden 24. They said that, the Buffalo Bills had a good season, but he also threw a career high interceptions. Christian McCaffrey, Madden 25, he was beat to hell last season. And so a lot of people are wondering, oh, is this the Madden curse? I'll say this. When I look through the last 10 years, there's way more of that player did fine the following year than there are. Maybe there's something to this. What do you think when you think back on all those Madden covers?
It seems like over the last, like you're going over the last 10 years, it seems like most of those have been safe. It seems, I guess maybe there's probably 3 that you can call cursed. I'm not sure if it counts that, John Madden was put on the cover after he perished. Not sure when they started talking about that. Maybe they talked about it before, so that could be one. But I think like of the last 25 years, there's been 9 that are considered not cursed. It's just like 7 of those or 6 of those are in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's slowed down for sure. But there's definitely over the last at least 25 years, there's a case to be made that it hasn't worked out well for people being on the cover of Madden.
And it might not be that year. It could be like Antonio Brown. Like, he finished strong in Pittsburgh, and then it was that offseason. Well, it was after the final when they benched him for showing up late against Cincinnati in week 17 that year. It was that offseason when he was let go. He goes to Oakland for a literal cup of coffee, and then he's in New England, and then he's at Tampa Bay. That just was like the shove off point. But up until that point, Antonio,
he's a good Twitter follow though.
Gosh, he is. I follow him. I'll be honest, but that boy's crazy. But so in terms of, we kind of we talked about the cover. We talked about the jinx with that. It kind of lends itself to talking about other curses, superstitions in sports. And you and I were talking before we hit record about one in hockey. Now, if you've been following the playoffs, for instance, in the Western Conference playoffs, the Edmonton Oilers have advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals. So the team that wins their conference finals gets awarded a trophy. The theory is that the captain, are not supposed to touch the trophy. You stand there with the commissioner or the assistant commissioner, you take your little photo, and then you skate back with your team. Connor McDavid last year, when they made it to the finals and they lose in the finals, he did not touch the trophy. This year he does. And it's funny, I saw a video of a fan reaction, like someone's fan in the crowd, and they're like, oh my God, please don't touch it. And my wife had no idea about this superstition. And I said, watch this. This is hockey fans in a nutshell. And he goes over and touches the trophy, and all the fans are like, no, what are you doing? Like, they're so mad. Like, they're literally mad. That's like one superstition. But as you said before we went on the air, and I didn't know this, is that McDavid touched it last year, correct? And then isn't touching it this year, trying to reverse it.
No. Last year he didn't touch it.
He didn't touch it.
They lost to Florida in the Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah. They're playing Florida again this year. So I think he was like, you know what, that didn't work last year, so I'm going to go and grab the trophy this year.
So again, he's trying to reverse that juju of
It is.
touching or not touching the trophy.
It's one thing like we talk about like superstitions and all, but like this is the best hockey player on the planet. Like, and
Yes.
there's no doubt about it. Connor McDavid. If anybody listening to this is not a hockey fan, he is the Michael Jordan currently of hockey. He is the best player on the planet. Nobody argues with it.
Right.
And he went as far as this is in his head going in the Stanley Cup Finals. Oh, it's okay because I touched the trophy, or oh, I shouldn't have. Like, and he in real time goes and grabs the trophy, and it it's pretty crazy that there's that much thought process into it with the best player on the planet.
Hockey players are nuts. Like you talk about the playoff beards, you talk about the way that they warm up, like everything. They are very
Yep.
superstitious, very, very superstitious. But you looked up before we started some of the other jinxes, superstitions in sports. What did you find? Anything?
Well, I mean, so baseball's obviously got some famous ones because you've got. I mean, honestly, the Cubs, Yankees, and White Sox go down as some of your great curses. Obviously, Babe Ruth being sold to the Yankees,
Yeah.
and the Red Sox going 86 years was it without winning the title. You've got the Cubs, who the Billy Goat curse, which is the a Cubs fan that owned
Yeah.
a bar called the Billy Goat Tavern, bringing his pet goat to the field, and then they go through. I mean, what it was that was 1945 or so, but that was during the World Series in 45, and then they've not won
A
since.
long, a long time.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and then obviously the other one, the Chicago White Sox, Black Sox, however you want to kind of cover that, is Shoeless Joe Jackson, and in 1920 they get thrown out for throwing the 1919 World Series, and then I mean it's been problems for the White Sox since.
Yeah.
And they did finally win a World Series in 2005. But again, you're talking about an 85-year gap based on on whatever happened there. Now, those guys are now allowed to be in the Hall of Fame as of they're throwing in with the Pete Rose.
What do you think about that, by the way? Let's do a quick aside. What do you think about these guys being allowed in the Hall of Fame? Pete Rose, and it's all post death. I hate that. I can't stand it. Pete Rose would have just said, like, can you just let me in? But while I'm still alive and breathing, just give me a chance. They wait till he passes and then they do it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Pete Rose should have been in the Hall of Fame while he was alive.
I agree.
Get huge mistake, and I think that I'm not saying he should have been forgiven and put in 15 or 20 years ago. Like he needed to. They made their point though, and the guy finally came back around and admitted to everything. Well, everything to do with baseball.
Right.
And he deserved to have that celebration while he was alive. And I think the fans deserved it. And there was an overwhelming support from fans for Pete Rose to be in the Hall of Fame. Like, well, who's the Hall of Fame for? It's not for the reporters. It's
The
not
best
for
players. Yeah.
It's for the fans to go see their favorite players.
Will it be awkward if Major League Baseball gives naming rights to the Cooperstown celebration to like FanDuel or DraftKings?
I mean, that's probably what will happen.
Welcome to the Cooperstown Hall of Fame induction, brought to you by DraftKings. Make sure, hey, if you got a gambling problem, reach out.
for sure.
What do you think about the steroid era guys?
The who?
The steroid era guys. I'm talking about the Barry Bonds, the Roger Clemens, the Kurt Schillings, all these guys. You think they should be in?
Barry Bonds is the greatest baseball player that's ever walked the planet, and
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. And if you're going to call it, and it is proven 100% to be the steroid era of baseball, there are plenty of baseball players who were involved in that era and used steroids that just weren't caught, that are in the Hall of Fame. And the fact that some people got caught or were highly suspected, they played against each other. You were playing in that era, and that's again, before and after and all that stuff. Barry Bonds was the greatest baseball player that walked the planet.
But there were pitchers and hitters that did it too. It wasn't just hitters
100%.
that were teeing off. Like Roger Clemens was jacked out of his mind too, and so like.
You know what you never hear is the the pitch. You can watch tons of videos of people, pitchers that played against him, talking about Barry Bonds, and it's all in reverence. None of it
Yes.
is, well, it wasn't really fair because of blah blah blah. They're like, he's the greatest player. I didn't want to throw this, or I had this great at bat against him, and then them talking about it. He's revered by everybody that played against him. There's not anybody out there. Again, players aren't talking about that he doesn't belong.
You know who didn't juice was Nolan Ryan. That dude was just country boy strong.
It's absolutely insane. And again, you know what? That's a guy that was a fan of Pete Rose. I've seen the two of them do speeches
Yeah.
and stuff with crowds together. And Nolan would tell you that Pete Rose belonged in the Hall of Fame while alive.
And he pitched against him, so he understands. But okay, enough baseball talk. Let's channel this back into football. But I want to talk to you about it. It's something that I sent you a video actually this morning before we recorded. It was insane. It was a game. What was it? 2019.
2019
LSU.
was LSU's championships,
Alabama.
undefeated championship season.
Yeah, LSU versus Alabama. In that game, there were 18 first-round picks selected. Before we talk about the game and all the players that were in that game, you're an SEC guy.
Yes.
What is going on with the SEC? They are supposed to be leaving the NCAA. Did I read that headline correctly not too long ago?
I mean, yeah, they're gonna leave NCAA and make their own. I mean, this is kind of the way it's been headed for a while.
But what is this going to look like? What does this mean? So the SEC says, "Hey, NCAA, we're sick of you. We're sick of your policies. We're sick of you trying to tell us what to do." Blah blah blah. Is the SEC?
We're sick of supporting you and being the way that you stay open.
So what is the end game here? Are other conferences going to follow the SEC, and then what do we have?
I mean, eventually, what there's going to be is, and I need to do some more reading over it. It's not something I've dug into, but you're going to end up with 50 teams in the SEC is what it's going to be, and that's going to be the new NCAA. I mean, and then
Wild.
they don't see a reason why they would share their revenue and their profits with somebody else that doesn't deserve it and that isn't like holding up their end of the deal. This was all going to happen as soon as Texas, who's had the biggest TV deal in the history of sports, when they left and joined the SEC, this was where it's always headed. Now, is there a TV deal / NCAA, I don't know, something that come along? I think the only thing that's going to stop it is if Congress gets involved and was like, that you're not, I mean, which they've stepped into sporting things before.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that it's a ways off. I think it'll take a while to get together, but they need to fix what's going on with transfers and all that kind of stuff before they try to make a new league.
I heard someone dub the college sports, not just football, college sports right now is the Wild West. And I think that's accurate because really there's no regulations. And the SEC is making a ton of money because they're by far the best conference in the sport that makes the most money, football. And yeah, like, so I just can't fathom if this were to actually go through and come to fruition, what would it look like? I'm trying to think of an example. Would this look like? I can't even think of one. Give me an example of what this would look like. NFL, NBA, anything. Would this be like the AFC North saying we're not part of the NFL anymore and we're just going to go do our own thing?
I mean,
I just can't. I can't wrap my head around it.
I mean, I think it's just different with that because I mean, there's 200 schools in the NCAA, so it just becomes kind of a different thing. When you're still talking about we're not talking about a 10 or a 12 team SEC. It would be a large 30 to 50 teams. So you're essentially making another NFL because you're talking about what you're talking about is if there's 32 teams and 6 of them split off for 5. That's not what it is. It's, the best 40 or 50 teams splitting off. So it's still a massive thing, but it would more closely resemble what we see as an NFL league, that size. And also
it's wild because again, if you go back to the video that I sent you, which I saw it on Twitter, and so I knew you were an LSU guy, and I was like, okay, that it's incredible that in this game in 2019, the number 2 ranked LSU Tigers versus the number 3 Alabama Crimson Tide. Who was number 1 at that time?
That was it Georgia?
Maybe.
That was the one where LSU went on the thing. They beat 5 of the 6 top teams in the country, and Alabama's the only one that they didn't beat by double digits.
but 18 first-round draft picks played in that game on both sides of the field.
So
You had
18
Justin.
first round draft picks.
Yes.
Like, so it's just, I mean, but you're talking about, I mean, that's the where obviously Burrow, Chase, and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson all played together in one offense. And then on Alabama, you've got Najee Harris, Jerry Jeudy. I
Jalen
don't know if we
Waddle.
need to call Mac Jones since Tua was actually the quarterback,
Right.
but Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and Henry Ruggs the third. You're talking about just on the offensive side of the ball with the quarterbacks and the receivers, and that were insane. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a number 32 overall pick as a running back
Still
as
a
well.
first-round pick. So here's what's wild, though. If you were watching that game in 2019, you were essentially watching an NFL game. They were just not drafted. If you were essentially watching like a future, hell, some would say that they get the LSU offense is like an NFL All-Star team.
I did just read a thing while we were talking to the SEC. Obviously, is what its big thing is obviously there's a threat to leave the NCAA, but their problem is that they at least want to make decisions for the entire NCAA. So essentially, the SEC, rather than be an equal voting partner with other conferences, they want a 68%. They want more than 2/3 decision making rights when it comes to what's going on, and I'm sure that's going to factor into the amount of profits that they want as well. So we'll see. There's obviously going to be a lot of I don't know. There'll be a long way between now and then, and I think that the powers will be able to step in, and there'll be a huge.
I think you're right. This is a ploy to try and jockey for position. But what's really strange about college sports is it's unlike the NFL, where there's a collective bargaining agreement that expires on this date, and we're going to negotiate things, and we're going to get a new CBA involved. You have all these different TV deals that are going on with like the Big 10 and the Big 12 and the SEC, and they're not all congruent together. So it happens at different times. So if the SEC says, listen, we're sick of this. Let's have 4 major conferences: the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and whatever. If you want to bring back, I don't know, because the Pac-12 is gone. I don't know what else there is. So, if they want to have a 4th large conference, and we're just going to do this regionally, you have all these TV deals with these conferences and with these channels, and it's like, well, our TV deal expires on this date, and this TV deal expires on this date, and that's where the large majority of the revenue comes from and stems from. It's real. I don't know how this gets rectified. I don't want to see college football get fragmented, because I think if it gets fragmented, it's going to hurt the product. If that product gets hurt, I think it's going to hurt the NFL in terms of like the draft and all of that stuff. Do you see this end game being eventually having 4 major conferences to make it simple for the playoff system and stuff?
I don't know. See, the problem is you talk about all those negotiations and the way they work out. What makes them work out is deadlines. And at some point, something expires and people start losing money or people start losing power. And at some point, this doesn't have that. Besides, if the SEC is going to implement a deadline, but the SEC is essentially is putting a deadline on something that they control. So they're going to put a deadline on the NCAA, but the SEC is in charge. So I don't know. I mean, we hear all the time with all these contracts, whether it's between player and owner or whether it's between the leagues and the players, deadlines make the deals happen like all the time. It's all about like, when do you start losing money and when does chaos erupt? And when do you piss off the fans? I don't think is going to have one of those. So I think that's the scary thing about it, is the SEC's essentially got all of the power. And if the NCAA wants to give away the little bit they do have, I don't know. It's going to be a weird one, because like you said, there's not a deadline.
Yeah. I have 2 quick hitter questions for you before we call it a show. First one is, out of the following 3 NFL players, all pass rushers, who do you think gets a deal done first? So the options are TJ Watt of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys, and Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals. Of those 3, if you had to pick and you had to predict who gets paid first?
Micah Parsons.
Really? So you think Dallas is going to broker a deal before Pittsburgh? I get the Cincinnati thing. I don't think that's going to be ending anytime soon. I think that could get real ugly personally. So you think Micah?
I think so. The Trey Hendricks one would be second to me, just because they've made such declarative, mean statements on both sides that just seems like eventually somebody caves there, or they are like, "Hey, we're hurt feelings. Let's talk about it." And Burrow's the wild card there. If
Okay.
he actually like gets both of them, like he could actually mediate or get both of them to the table, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, just Micah Parsons, because of his age, and
True.
he's the one that probably that he's the one that deserves the money out of those three right now moving forward. TJ Watt's age scares me. I think that the Steelers not having a quarterback, and like if they see a route to having a losing season this year, why are they going to pay TJ Watt 40-50 million dollars at the twilight of his career? Uh, I, I don't I think it would take, you'd have to like fire Tomlin as you trade TJ Watt, but I don't think see him getting a big deal at
Really?
in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I mean,
Do you
you're
think he?
obviously a
Do you
lot
think?
more locked in me. I think that if they signed him to a big deal, it's a mistake.
I wouldn't disagree with what you just said about being a mistake, but do you think that there's a chance that TJ Watt plays in a contract year this year and then hits free agency after this season?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm not. Hey, that would be rough. That would be rough to watch because you would know that would eat him alive, and it would be horrible for the organization. In terms of the overall perspective and the view and the how it just looks to the general public, it would just be awful. The
What if
optics would be bad.
they're 3 games below 500 at the trade deadline?
Look, man, I'm at this stage of my life with the Steelers that I want to see the team have long-term
Yep.
success.
Yep.
And it's not right in front of me. I can tell you that whether Aaron Rodgers plays or not, TJ Watt signs, it's not going to move the needle enough to actually have them have long-term success. So if you can trade him, yeah, that's going to suck. And it's going to be for a lot of fans, it's going to be bad,
It'd be
but
for some good podcast downloads.
you got it. Okay.
Hey,
The
I'm
next
the
one
same
is
way. There's
go ahead.
lots of Saints fans are talking about like, oh, how do we get to 9 wins this year? Is there any way we can win the division? I'm like, I want to be good for the next 15 years. I don't want to like sell the farm for maybe we get second in the division this year. It's
Right.
not important to
Exactly.
me.
All right, let's then finish up last quick hitter. If you had to predict who Kirk Cousins plays for in 2025, who do you think it is? And Atlanta can be an option here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that Atlanta probably is the option. I'm not sure with other teams that have. There's one team that has a starting quarterback opportunity in the league, and they're not trading for him.
You talking
And
about Pittsburgh or
I'm
New
talking about
Orleans?
Pittsburgh. And
In
I,
division trade, send him to the Saints.
here's the other thing of why I think he plays for Atlanta, and actually, and I mean plays. I don't think Michael Penix Jr. is a good quarterback, and
Okay.
the numbers he put up last year are not good numbers. And he had a stud offense around him with maybe not play calling, but as the other players around him, he's got a whole bunch of first round draft picks and explosive players around him, and he didn't have good numbers. And again, he was a rookie; he wasn't supposed to have good numbers. But I don't think he's good, and I think that they will want Kirk Cousins play because in that crappy division, they're going to be even they're going to be bad. They're going to be in the competition for winning the division. So I think he starts to the end of the year for them.
So he's like you think they keep him as an insurance policy?
I mean, who's going to trade much for him? There's so many weird things with how much, who's going to eat the money, who's going to actually give up anything more than a fifth for him. Is he even going to approve the trade because they're not going to have a starting job? Like it's a mess.
It's definitely interesting. It's
What do
definitely
you think?
interesting.
You think he where do you think he plays?
I think he stays in Atlanta, at least for the time being, based on the fact that they would have to give up more than they would be willing to give up in terms of, yeah, we'll eat some of his salary or something like that to execute a trade. Pittsburgh's not making that trade right now, but if all of a sudden, a couple weeks into the season, someone gets hurt before the trade deadline, he could be on the move. I don't think he gets moved anywhere. I think they're going to just wait it out. Atlanta's going to try and get his most, if they're going to trade him at all, they're going to try and get the best deal possible for him. And I don't think that doing that would not be trading him now. It would be waiting.
To me, I think the Steelers and Browns are the only places that make sense, and the Browns don't make sense because they have Joe Flacco, who's what's the difference?
Not much.
Besides, he's get paid a lot more than Joe Flacco.
Well, that's the same with Pittsburgh. They have Mason Rudolph. If you're comparing apples to apples,
Yeah.
I mean, Mason Rudolph can do what Kirk Cousins can, and he's not coming off a ruptured Achilles 2 years ago.
Right.
So I've always been the one that says, just roll with Mason. And if you win 6 games, guess what? You're in a better position to go get your quarterback next year. So there you go.
Don't worry. There'll be an announcement soon about your quarterback.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right, Wesley, it's been a fun show, man. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, you can find me on X at whodatwesley13. You can also find me on the Dome Patrol podcast at Dome Patrol PCast. Jeff, where can we find your Steelers coverage and exfoliating tips and tricks?
At J Hartman, HARTMAN_PIT. I do talk about golf. So if you find me there, it's not just Steelers stuff. I do talk a lot about golf. And you'll find Wesley in the comments of my tweets. So go check it out. But you can also find my Steelers coverage at the Steel Curtain Network. Wesley, man, thanks for your time. We'll talk next week.
Thank you, sir. See you next week.